there are a lot of people, though, just in all fairness for the New Age people, there's a lot of people that I know that's in the New Age. They have a big spectrum. They favor the approach of the New Age because they have a tendency to shy away from religion. But what people don't understand is that there's a lot of people that shied away from religion. Last I checked, so did Master Rabbi Jesus. And the key of it is that we tell everybody we're for everybody. We're for everybody. But you have to understand, just in this lifetime alone, the Lama has spent 52 years of training in some of the information that we're sharing with you. I remember I had to do the exercises for 7 years before I could share the exercises with another human being, because that was the old traditional way. And when something is intact for 3,000 years, you got to think for a minute, what do you know that's intact for 3,000 years? Outside of the planet itself, in a few countries, because even most of the countries have changed, right? Do you know that India and Tibet, the landmass 3,000 years ago, was much different than it? Do you know the landmass of China was much different than it was, right? Did you know that thousands of years ago, not everybody that was born in the country of India was of dark skin? Did you know that? That there were a lot of fair skinned people? A lot of people don't know that. Because if your history study is as superficial as your religious study, in other words, you've only studied one piece of scripture, and primarily the only reason you've done that is because mommy and daddy or your girlfriend and boyfriend does that, there's a good chance you don't even know what you believe yet. But I'm going to tell you where modern day religions really fall short. They're not really good history books. And the history is tainted because it's his dash story. It was a masculine interpretation. What about the women's version? I mean, on the Sermon on the Mount alone, they say there were 5,000 people at the Sermon on the Mount. Well, guess what? We had people at the Sermon on the Mount. Did you? Was there anybody in your family that was at the Sermon on the Mount? Because the Lamasery had somebody with the Christ family from the time that Mary was told she was going to conceive Jesus to the birth of Jesus, all the way to the ascension of Jesus after. Do you know anybody else that knows an organization that had somebody there? So we know things just about that one piece of history. And we're talking about a 33-year to 40-year window. If we know that much about one individual that changed the whole course of events forever in the world, as a matter of fact, the average Christian doesn't even know that the bulk of Jesus's teachings were not the first 33 years. The core of his message came the 40 days after the stone was rolled away. Think about that. The core of his teachings. How many people who call themselves Christians or abbots of religion even know that that's really true, right? Because if you don't know that's true, you need to dig and study a lot more than you're doing. And if you really have true faith, it would probably be a good idea to read other books of religions. Read different thinkings, read different philosophies, different psychologies. Understand what makes the world think. Are you really naive enough to believe that the human race started only 7,500 years ago, when archaeologists today say that DNA of human beings have been on the planet for 300,000 to 400,000 years? Lamasery knows that the Adam story wasn't 7,500 years ago. It was 175,000 years ago. We're also not naive enough to believe that God created creation in 7 24-hour cycles, but 7 days equals 24,000 years. So if you don't know this, you're in the right place. And maybe you might want to humble yourself and empty your cup a little bit and not be so full of yourself, and do a few mirror meditations and try what we're doing before we pass judgment on something that we know nothing what we're talking about. And I'm going to bet that that person knows very little about religion at all. Maybe this much, maybe less than that, right?